Hello, good morning, good evening, and welcome to this session in our series of conversations of women of significance in STEM. And welcome to Z-Axis TV, and I am Leah Zallams, the founder of Z-Axis Leadership Consultancy in Sydney, Australia, and I focus on developing leaders in both in the STEM industry. And today we have with us Shamira I'm going to say Sangria. It is not Sangria. Shamira Sanghrajka. Welcome, Shamira. And I do apologize for getting your name wrong. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So the focus of our conversation today, Shamira, is to hear a little bit about your career story to date and to explore I guess the skills, the strengths, the things that drive you to be doing what you're doing as a leader, as a role model for other women pursuing or thinking about pursuing careers in the science and tech industry. Because as we know, there is a lot of specific value that comes from taking a more science and technical education and pursuing a career in this arena, again, with the ability of complex problem solving, analytical skills, the evidence-based approach that we take. So we're keen to explore, firstly, if we start with you, with what you do right now, who you serve, and how that is making a difference.
Yeah, sure. So I am a co-founder of 1 Million Women in STEM, which is a global community that campaigns to provide visible female role models in STEM to the next generation of girls, in the bid to encourage them to take STEM subjects at education levels and pursue STEM careers later on. We also do have events and a blog and things like that. So we are building our community to provide accessibility to these female role models that we are curating, I guess, in our community. And to date, we've featured 1,800 women across 70 or so countries and about 250 professions. So we're building up to be the largest Women in STEM campaign across the world.
That's amazing, and that's of course how we met. As yes. You know, as I've become a contributor, and I really look forward to exploring how I can participate more in there as well. But from your perspective, I'm keen to understand, you know, what has driven that vision that you have right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We of course did meet. You are a wonderful participator, and I should add a wonderful blog contributor as well. Firstly, I'm not alone in this. So I have a wonderful but silent co-founder who pushes the strategic vision as well. And now we have a team of volunteers, but we originally started this because I'm not a STEM educated person. I'm very proudly a historian by training. And I went into finance after university and then subsequently into AI. And at the time, there were a lot of micro comments and beliefs in myself as well that, you know, I don't know enough to break into technology, which is a phrase that people use. Whereas I got in and realized that there are roles that don't require breaking into technology. Whereas I had never known that. I just kind of went and did something and I got in, and then subsequently realized this. So I kind of took this as a little bit of a myth to debunk, as it were. And at the same time, fortunately for us, Microsoft released quite a seminal piece of research that shows that role models are the most effective tools at encouraging girls and women to stay in STEM education and careers respectively. And then out of role models, real role models versus kind of historical women, celebrities, fictional characters, things like that, are twice as more effective against the other categories I just mentioned. So really, we're working with very powerful tools.
Say that again, Shamira. Are you saying that the historical women, so the Madame Curies and those women, are more effective as role models than
so the other way around? So real role models are twice.
Yes, that's what I thought I heard.
Effectiveness of like historical or celebrity role models, just because innately you can see them, you can access them, you see yourself in their journey, which makes it so much more powerful to the younger generation, by which I kind of have a loose age range of, you know, anywhere from 13 to about 24, when you're still making decisions fairly important to your direction in life. Not to say that, of course, you can't do that outside of that age range, but typically that's what we aim for. So those two kind of factors, first being my experience, but second also being this research, drove us to start at the time what was a small but ambitious campaign. And I was intrigued to see how many essentially strangers, people I didn't know would get involved. So we actually created the first 1,000 without pursuing anyone that we knew, just to see how much, if you just ask someone for a little bit of information, guidance and help, they are willing to give it to you. So I think that is the secondary message of the campaign that I would like girls to take away, that you should just ask. The worst that you're going to get is a no reply, and how bad is that? It's not going to turn the dial.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Shamira. I would love to hear more about where you learnt that asking is okay. It is actually safe to ask.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, my mum's a fairly strong woman, so people say when I get loud and boisterous, I just say you should meet my mum, because I've got nothing on her. So first, that was very important to have kind of strong female influences in my life going forward. The second thing is that I didn't get into university at 17, so I got kind of a blanket no, which is fairly unusual in the UK university system, just putting it objectively. If you have a kind of strong enough profile, some of it is kind of just bad luck of the draw at the time. And it was a bit of a bitter rejection pill to swallow, because up until that date, I kind of was just sailing through life, as it were. And that made me really kind of reevaluate what I was going to do for a whole year, step out of the education hamster wheel, and look at what I wanted to do. And there were no formal opportunities for me to do kind of work at that point, because it was quite late in the year. So I just decided that I'm going to create something to do for myself. So I just emailed a lot of companies and asked them. And honestly, after the first 10, you might worry after clicking send and just shut your laptop and run away, as I did for the first 10. But honestly, after that, like, something kind of left me, and I just kind of started sending, and it was nothing but good, really, because the people that weren't interested didn't reply, which is great, and the people that were interested did reply, which is also great for me. So that was where I think it really started.
So it sounds like you separated yourself, your sense of well-being, from whatever outcome came from sending that email, whether you got an answer or not, whether you got a yes or a no. You weren't holding much store in what that outcome was. You were simply working the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also a separation of a lot of times, even, you know, many times I do this too, but I try to recognize when I do it. People think of reactions that other people may have to something and just interpret that that's the reaction that they're going to have, but actually they could have one of a number of reactions that you hadn't thought of. So why put any kind of store in, or why let that change your action if you're worried or scared, or thinking about what someone else is going to think about what you're doing, rather than just kind of doing it. Because I also learned that when I was working, that I did not have the reactions that other people thought I would have, and vice versa, that other people didn't have the reactions I thought they had. So why waste any time thinking about that, and just do what you're kind of passionate and believe in and is ethical and all of that good stuff, because it's really not worth the time and effort to channel into worrying about people's reactions to what you're doing.
Yes, this focus on fear of what other people think, right, is a really, it's certainly something that I come across a lot in my coaching clients, that once we can break through that chain, and it is like almost automatic thinking, that until we bring a consciousness to it, we can't change it. So it sounds like you've had a lot of awareness very early in your life already. So I'm curious, I know you've had a very strong role model in your mother. And
father, I should add. I don't want to leave him.
No, yes. And then you didn't get into university, but instead of letting that stump you, you got into action you created an alternate path for yourself. So, so I'm curious to hear now that it's certainly a very noble vision you have around creating effectively an environment which can connect younger people with role models, or with people from different walks of life in the STEM industry. So what do you see that will make possible? What change are you looking to see with this initiative? You could put your mind to any number of different things, clearly. And not coming from STEM yourself.
Yeah. So I think that the change might be difficult to immediately see, but it's in these girls' mindsets, and I would love for it to affect any number from 1 to, however big we want to go. I think there's a difficulty in pursuing something that might be perceived as, more difficult for women, at least at the moment, to break into, i.e. STEM subjects, without seeing people that have already been there and done it and forged a path. Because once you see just one person that looks like you and has a story that resonates with you as a reader, that switch, I think, just turns on, and that's the real magic for me. Because at that point, all the motivation is there, all of the drive is there, and it was always there. It's just the switch turned on. So I think
that relatability, an element of relatability, we don't know where that's going to come from, do we? And that's the beauty of having like such a big vision, globally, and because and like you say, even if it's one young woman's possibility thinking, if that's ignited, it's all worthwhile.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, you're putting it much better than I am. So maybe
no, I'm feeding from you, Shamira, let me tell you.
No, that's exactly correct. Yeah.
And so what challenges do you see, and particularly coming in, as you say, you have already dispelled or broken barriers to come into a AI, a very highly technical field, without that traditional technical background. And I do also hear this, that there can be biases where women are wanting to perhaps, you know, work within a STEM organization or a STEM initiative, and then they're not given the opportunity because they don't have the traditional technical, that you're not technical enough. And so I'm curious to hear, you know, what challenges you see that are facing young women wanting to pursue these technical careers.
Yeah, I would say, so firstly, you do have to have the skill set for the job you're applying for. And at the moment, that skill set is increasingly getting more technical. So if you don't have a technical skill set, then there's a passion for the industry, and there's a select amount of roles in that industry, of course, that you can do. But I would, if I was giving advice even to my former self, I would say kind of just peruse websites and languages and things like that that would help me in the future, perhaps. So I would say that is a technical skill set element building, and there are plenty of amazing resources, free online resources for girls to learn technology, play with science, and we've come across a lot of them in our work. So it's out there, you just need to find it. So that's the first thing. I would say the second thing is obviously this visibility thing. It can be a little bit demotivating and slightly isolating at times to be the only girl in whatever room that you're in. I've been the only girl in many rooms. I worked in finance before and technology, so many rooms have been the only female. But at the same time, it's a belief that you have a seat at the table, and you have a valid seat at the table, whichever table.
Did you have trouble with that, Shamira, in the beginning? Like, was there an element of you having to work at it to take that seat at the table, or did you kind of get over that fairly quickly?
Yeah, I think I did have to work at it, and that's a very good point, which is that a lot of this advice comes from after a process of learning, but we do need to be transparent about that. There was a process of learning before that advice came into play, which is a great point. And I think for me, the process was, it was literally breaking it down and saying, okay, in some meetings I'm going to say one thing, and I'm going to, you know, think that the thing I'm saying is good, rather than after I say it, just question it for the rest of the meeting, saying, was it intelligent? Was it good enough? Should I have made that comment? Etc. etc. And many things happen that, you know, you think something, you don't say it, someone else says it, and then you're like, well, I thought that too. And I hear that from many women, that happens. So I think that just setting smaller goals in things that you find challenging in the workplace or the rooms that you're in, for example, by speaking a small amount and then building it up, etc., are ways to practically address this feeling that and build this feeling that I have a valid seat at the table. And of course, the second thing is kind of finding female mentors or, you know, male advocates as well in the organization that you're in, to advocate on your behalf. And whilst I kind of do think that the strongest advocate for ourselves is ourselves, other people do see and believe in young people where we might not ourselves. So that motivation does come into play for me. And so having them at different levels of the organization where you can seek advice is something that I did all the time. And actually, someone kind of referred to the fact that I should have my mentors, and I kind of just thought, well, I don't really have mentors. And then you think, oh, who are all of these people though that I, you know, sit down for coffee with, and they're just now friends and kind of more, you know, just people I know and I like, but actually they are people I seek the advice from. So in ways they are mentors. So
without having a formal
exactly.
mentoring agreement with them. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of informal mentorship took place in how to navigate something new for me. And I think that is very important. And so, yeah, those are the two ways I would say that you build your seat at the table, both physically and in your mind, I think.
And from your experience, Shamira, you seeing that that younger women are struggling with that? Because I guess, and particularly in technical environments, we do hear a lot about the introvert versus extrovert, or typically people with the technical backgrounds are not comfortable speaking up or being forthright at the table. And so this is why they get overlooked. This is why they don't get chosen. This is why there's not enough women with those technical backgrounds in those leadership and board positions. And because what I'm hearing and seeing from you is there's this compelling characteristic about you that is beyond belief. You know, there's something very compelling about what you say matters, and it's energetically that's coming from you. And I guess this is what we want to bottle up and infuse it into people perhaps who don't have it, because it seems to be quite difficult for people to grow that quickly. So yeah, so I sort of wanted to reflect that back to you and see, you know, is there something else you could share about something that was really difficult for you, and now you can see, as you say, wisdom in hindsight. It's very easy to look back and see, you know, what worked or how you got around it. And because there is certainly a lot more focusing on leader development programs, for example, for women in technical organizations, in big business, in government, and also in more formal network mentoring associations or groups as well. So all of this seems to have been sort of second nature to you to forge out for yourself. So I guess these are some of the qualities. You know, we might look at you and say, well, you know, you would be perhaps in that category of the natural leader as opposed to the developed leader. Right. So we need that as well. And then I guess we also, and I think this is where you become a formidable role model yourself to show what's possible, and that, you know, it can be possible now. This is also what I'm hearing from you. Come on, it's possible now.
Yeah.
There's an urgency. Yeah.
That's an accurate reflection. One thing I would like to add, though, is that a lot of people, and this is something I kind of focus in on with mentoring relationships I have, is a lot of people think that kind of confidence and public speaking in any realm, public speaking does not have to be in front of an audience of over 50 or anything. Public speaking happens a lot more in normal daily life. Even this could be characterized as public speaking. So things of that nature, speaking in public and kind of confidence building to do so, is not a born skill. It's a developed skill. And there's a lot of noise around the fact that, oh, I was born a confident public speaker, and you know, I'll just have the confidence to speak. Just get up there and do it. And there's a lot of work that goes into appearing natural and speaking as if it was effortless, which is true of any career that you do. There's a lot of work in making it seem that it's easy to other people. And that's where kind of true talent and hard work pays off, I think. And so one thing I would say is that I did actually develop my public speaking from a very, very young age, only because I was actually very shy when I was younger. So very young, like, you know, 7 or 8, my parents noticed that I was incredibly shy, and they just put me in speech and drama and put me in public speaking competitions, where I was taught how to kind of get on a stage and persuade any set of people to do any set of crazy things that we were doing that day, which is fun and light, but also gives you these kind of tangible practices that wear the anxiety off slightly, because you've done the stupidest thing that you could do. So now everything else just looks normal.
And you didn't die doing it. You survived.
And I did die doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you live to tell the tale. So exactly. So I think that's the big piece of advice that I give people, that do small things every day if you're not kind of a confident speaker. And that doesn't mean to say that, you know, there are levels. Like, I'm a confident speaker in certain environments, but in certain others I have to practice a lot to get there. And to give that 1 minute speech has got 100 minutes behind it of practice and mirror time and all of that good embarrassing stuff. So I would just kind of always don't give people the kind of thought of, oh well, they can do it, it comes naturally to them, because actually for 99% of people, without kind of saying 100, but really for most people, it comes through a lot of practice and hard work. And then it becomes a question of, if they can practice and hard work and persevere, then you can too. So really it's just achievable for everyone, in any respect. This is not kind of confidence speak only. In any kind of field, anything that you're grappling with, that's always my thought, that other people have gone through a similar journey, and so we just need to go through the journey, and maybe the journey can be accelerated by kind of constant practice, but it's a journey.
Yes, and isn't that also the point of mentors, of asking for help earlier and rather than later, and doing the work so you can accelerate that journey and move out of the, you know, that whole cycle of incompetence to competence. And
100%.
yeah, so I guess in terms of, you know, I've got a few more minutes to explore your I guess your mindset here, Shamira. You know, what would be the three, I guess, your superpowers or your strengths, the things that bring you through, you know, these tough times? I mean, you could have rebelled at the age of 7 or 8 and not, you know, done the drama and the speech, but there was, you know, clearly something that that drove you there as well.
Yeah, I don't think I was had it in me to rebel, to be honest. Not at that age. Maybe 10 years later.
So for parents, they've got to start early before the kids are old enough to rebel.
Exactly. Get them while they're young. I would say three things that are important to me that perhaps are useful to other people. I would say, don't worry about what people think. It's always easier to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So just go for it. The second one is practice and perseverance. I'm gonna look like I don't know my stuff here, but you can certainly help me. I'm sure there is a certain set of P's that are kind of practice, perseverance, and things like that, that they always do pay off, and really they're the crux of everything. It's something about kind of, you know, hard work and determination.
Oh, and there was that other one. It would, which I'm not mad on. Perfect. I don't like the word perfect, but it is about deliberate practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's about kind of that small bit of practice that you just wear away at something, rather than overnight wanting to be good at something. Because for most people, like ordinary people like me, that just doesn't happen overnight, kind of transformations, and it's just a constant wearing down of things. So there's that. And then the third thing that I think is very important in my life, I try to inject wherever I go, is just have fun. And you know, humor is a great breaker of barriers, and a great connector of people. So just enjoy the ride, because it's really a fun one.
And so, and yes, and I think this also is what shines through in you is not taking things personally, which I think we talked a little bit before. And I think when you can look at something and have fun with it, then you're more likely to be a little bit looser about attaching so much, being so terminally serious. Because, you know, life is short. And I guess that's always the balance between being really committed to the things you want to achieve, because clearly you're very committed, but to dance with it a little bit. And so, but I guess that, and you know, as we know, we all will experience setbacks at different times. What's your go-to sort of get out of jail card for when it really all looks too hard, or when you really want to throw in the towel, but you don't quit? You're not a quitter. So that's the other thing I can see, or, you know.
I would say my first two go-tos are my family and chocolate, but aside from those and being kind of a little bit more serious, I would say that I always allow myself a time period, and it depends on my feelings of the day or of the activity. So sometimes it can extend into a week, I'm not gonna lie, but then, you know, a week of wallowing or a day of wallowing or whatever time I allocate myself, and then after that I have to make a plan, and I have to now do not wallowing activities, so constructive activities towards the next thing that I'm going to do in light of this. So as you said, like, there are many setbacks and people only see the tip of the iceberg and not the 90% below, but I've got, you know, rejected from a lot of places and a lot of things that I wanted to do. But if you have the kind of mentality of, okay, A, I'm going to either try again, or B, I'm going to try something different after you've allowed yourself a bit of time. Because I think, to be honest, I think Netflix and chocolate is a bit of a healer for me. I'm not going to lie about it. So after that, the small steps that you can take will reinforce and build up that confidence in yourself again, that, okay, maybe something's going right here. And, you know, my mum has a slightly different view on things, and she always kind of thinks that whatever's meant to happen for you will pan out in the time frame that it's going to pan out, and it's not going to be necessarily on your time frame and the time frame that you want it at that point. But looking back, it will work out in the best way. And actually, slowly, whilst I, you know, rolled my eyes a lot at that when I was younger, slowly I've kind of come to relax and buy into it, that if something doesn't work out immediately, there's something to be learned, there's a skill to be learned, there's an experience to be had in the meantime. And it doesn't mean that I'm never going to be good enough. It just means I need to build on something and then either try again or try something different.
And I love that approach. And it reminds me of a saying of there's no such thing as failure, only lessons.
Right.
So again, it's how we look at things. And I love that Bob Dyer quote, like, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Like, it's, right, you know, it very much is. And sometimes we can be in such a tunnel of, you know, one way thinking, and we can't seem to get, you know, out of that. And this is where asking for help earlier, you know, is something you said earlier as well. And then also, you know, looking, you know, making sure you've got your team of mentors and support as well. And it is so important to honor those feelings, you know, because, you know, the bucket does get muddy and the setbacks do hurt, right? And what I'm seeing more and more is that, you know, the women who are making strides in this area, like yourself, Shamira, are the ones that they learn about themselves deeply and thoroughly, and clearly you have a very good self-awareness. and you're also very
certain aspects.
yeah.
Only
And look, the journey never ends on that
yeah.
score. We never get to the point where there's nothing else to learn about, you know. But it's how we harness it, and then where we put our energy. And I'm really, you know, I'm really impressed with the where you're wanting to put your energy and where you are already putting your energy, and what a phenomenal you know, mission you have with 1 million women in STEM. And I guess as we wrap up now, where would be the best place for women to contact you who might want to learn more about this, or indeed, you know, get themselves involved as well? What's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way is through our website, www.1mwis.com. Yes. However, we are on every social media. So if you Google us, you'll find our Twitter, which is @MillionSTEM. And that applies to, that's our handle for all of our social media. So please do find us, reach out, email. We're always open and would love to speak to you. So yeah, hit me up.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Shamira.
Thank you, Leah. It was lovely speaking with you.